Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. First and foremost, I'm a little bit under the weather, so if I sound odd during this video and probably in my last video, I apologize. Hopefully, I'll get over this soon. But I wanted to go ahead and get this out. My builds that I'm using for the different party members during my Gold Dragon run. I already released a build for Camellia, who's serving as my inciter and is the main buffer in the party. So I'll leave a link to that down in the description. This build is going to be for Wenduag, who served as my Mantis Zealot. I really wanted to do a full playthrough with Mantis Zealot because I did a video ranking all the classes in the game, and a lot of people felt like I gave War Priest a raw deal and that it should have been higher up on the list. I can't stand War Priest. I've always felt like it was a really mediocre class. And so when Mantis Zealot got released, I said to myself, you know what, these mechanics do look interesting. Maybe this will be the subclass that can make me treat War Priest with a little bit more respect. And to be honest with you, I don't think I respect War Priest more, but Mantis Zealot is absolutely amazing. Well worth doing. I'm so glad I put Wenduag in this role. She serves as not only one of my main damage dealers, but also a great crowd control specialist for my party. And you'll see that as we get into the mechanics. Let's go ahead and dive in. So as I mentioned before, I'm using a respec mod in order to respec the party members. It also allows you to select their attributes. You need 32 points in order to get Wenduag stats right. I do have a spreadsheet linked down below that you can look at so that you can follow along with exactly what I'm doing. So Mantis Zealot gets the majority of War Priest mechanics. They miss out on the Sacred Armor bonuses, but in exchange, they automatically get proficiency with Sawtooth Sabers, which is a new type of weapon that was added specifically for this class. And as you progress in this class, you'll automatically get weapon focus, greater weapon focus, weapon specialization, and greater weapon specialization for these weapons. So that's a major benefit for you. It's a lot of feats you don't have to worry about. And weapon specialization would usually only be available to warriors and rangers. So it actually gives you access to a level of damage that War Priest usually wouldn't get access to. Also keep in mind, because you have the feats, you get access to the mythic feats, which will further increase the amount of damage this class is able to do. Really cool stuff. The other big aspect of this is Red Shroud. So this is going to give you a bonus to your AC, and it's going to interact with Deadly Fascination. Now, Deadly Fascination is triggered when Wenduag kills an enemy, and it forces all enemies within a 30-foot range to pass a will save that is based on her class level and dexterity modifier. So the DC for this is going to be sky high. And on top of that, if she's wielding 2 Sawtooth Sabers, which early in the game she'll start doing, then the DC is increased by 2. If she has Red Shroud activated, the DC is increased by another 2. And if they fail the will save, it's going to cause enemies to be fascinated, which basically means they're helpless and much easier to carve up. All of this together just makes her incredible at both damage dealing and crowd controlling enemies, and she still gets a couple of other things on top of that that make her even more interesting. All the way around, Mantis Zealot is fantastic. All right, now when it comes to our ability points, we're going to put 14 in strength, and this is because it's an extended amount of time before you're able to have all of your damage go through dexterity. So having a couple of extra points in strength is actually going to make the early game a lot easier to deal with. 20 in dexterity, we want that as high as possible. 14 in constitution. She's more of an off tank. Sela and Davrin are going to be the ones really rushing in, and then she's going to do more mop-up work, so we don't need her to have a crazy amount of constitution. 12 on intelligence, because I had a couple of points to spare. 16 on wisdom. Obviously War Priest uses wisdom. This is going to give her some additional spell slots to serve as a secondary buffer. Obviously Camellia is our main buffer, but Wenduag is going to help out as well. And then we're going to completely dump charisma. Of course, Wenduag isn't a particular charismatic person. She has some intimidation to her, but really I don't think charisma is her thing. Now, when it comes to skills, I went with mobility. Even though it's not a class skill for her, she is going to be pumping up dexterity a lot, and I wanted to have another person focusing on mobility, so this worked for me. Obviously, Lore Religion, she is going to be the character who has the highest wisdom score on my team, and so somebody needs to be taking care of Lore Religion. She's not going to be able to get as high as it would be if I had somebody like Sosale, or if my own character was a cleric, but she's serviceable, or at least she has been through 5 acts thus far. And then finally, it's you cannot have too many people on your team who have perception. So these are the 3 stats I increase. I focus on mobility and religion the most. So every other level, you'll only have 2 skill points instead of 3. So in those situations, I increase mobility and lower religion. So perception is a little bit behind, but there are other characters, especially my pets, who can take care of perception. Then for your level 1 feat, no question, you're going to want to get weapon finesse. It's going to allow you to use dexterity instead of strength for your attack rolls. It's going to take an extended amount of time before you can also use it for your damage rolls. Automatically, you're going to have to take spontaneous inflict. Then you're going to be able to choose 2 blessings. So I will go ahead and go with trickery, which is going to allow you to use double, which basically functions in a similar sense as mirror image. You're going to be able to use it as a move action until level 10, when you'll be able to do it as a swift action. And then at level 10, you're also going to have access to invisibility greater. Obviously, both of these are of great use to Wenduag, so this is nice to have. For your secondary option, I go ahead and choose Chaos. Really, none of these are all that great, so you could choose any one that you wanted. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the rest of her build. At level 3, you're going to go ahead and take 2 weapon fighting. Again, we want to use 2 sawtooth sabers. It's going to still be a while probably before you use them as 2 weapons though, because you're just not going to be able to get your attack high enough. But probably by around level 5 or 6, I believe, I started using 2 weapons at a time to fantastic effect. At level 5, we go ahead and take combat reflexes. This is going to allow you to use your dexterity bonus to get more attacks of opportunity. That's going to be big with Wenduag. She's going to be critically hitting all the time, and so will your other party members. So we want to make sure outflank triggers all the time, and that when enemies run past her, she'll be able to take advantage. At level 6, you're going to take improved to weapon fighting, which is going to lower even more the penalty that you get when fighting with 2 weapons. Definitely by this time, you should be using 2 sawtooth sabers. No question, as mentioned before, we want to take outflank, so you'll automatically trigger an attack of opportunity when you or one of your other melee characters that you're next to critically hits. Absolutely, this is great to have. At level 9, improved critical, sawtooth saber, no question. We want to be able to hit crits as often as possible, so this is fantastic. At level 11, we take medium armor proficiency. So I really wanted to use Chainmail of Camaraderie, which is going to give you a +2 bonus to damage against flanked creatures. And if you have an outflanked creature, which Wenduag does, the damage bonus increases to +4. Now, this is medium armor, and the Mantis Zealot does not automatically get medium armor proficiency, right? So you have to take this proficiency in order to be able to use the armor. However, you also need to note that the quality is mithril. If an armor is mithril, that means it is treated as 1 level lower. So that means even though this Chainmail of Camaraderie is medium armor, for mythic feats and some of the other feats, honestly, it's treated as a light armor, right? So this creates a weird situation where I want to be able to use a mythic armor focus that's actually going to trigger with the armor that I have. So I have to take medium armor proficiency, but I have to take light armor focus, right? And when I choose the mythic option, I have to take mythic light armor focus, because even though this is a medium armor, because it's mithril, the game treats it as light, which I personally think is goofy. I don't think that makes sense at all, to be frank with you. Like in the tabletop, there's a similar aspect to this, but it doesn't apply to feats, right? So mithril is treated as a level lower, but it doesn't change what feats or mythic feats you would need to take in order to apply to this particular item. So the fact that it works this way in Wrath of the Righteous, to me, it shouldn't, but obviously it's been an extended amount of time. People have complained. This is clearly what Owlcat wants to do. They decided it makes sense to them, so this is what you got to roll with. All right, Getting back to the other options. So we take light armor focus next. Then at level 14, go ahead and take Piranha Strike, which is basically the light weapon version of Power Attack. Really, Power Attack is better, but for Wenduag's build, it just makes sense to go this route. She's not going to have the crazy high strength to really make use of Power Attack. Double Slice says that it adds your strength bonus to damage rolls made with your offhand weapon, but actually, when using finesse weapons and focusing on dexterity, it'll add your dexterity modifier to those offhand attack damage rolls. So well worth taking for this character. It's definitely going to help her. Next up, we're going to take Lunge, which is going to increase the reach of her melee attacks. I'm also going to put legendary proportions on her for consistent basis, so she's really going to be able to reach a lot of the enemies on the field, and that should hopefully give her even more attacks of opportunity. At level 8, we're going to go ahead and take Greater 2-Weapon Fighting. It's going to give you yet another attack, but it's at a -10 penalty, so you don't need to rush taking this at all, but it is nice having on your character. And then at level 19, we've got one last feat left available, so I go ahead and take Blind Fight. As far as the mythic options, first up, we take Ever Ready, which is going to make our attack of opportunity attacks even more powerful. Definitely want this for your melee characters. Then finally at level 2, we're going to get Weapon Finesse Mythic, which is going to allow us to use our dexterity modifier instead of strength for our damage rolls. Definitely is going to be a significant increase in damage for Wenduag, but again, she has decent strength. She's got a couple of points of modifier there, so it's not nearly going to be as painful for you as it would have been if you were using a different type of character. At Mythic level 3, we go ahead and take Last Stand. She's not crazy tanky, especially because we're using a medium chainmail that is not going to take full advantage of her dexterity modifier. I've never had to use Last Stand for her. She's actually been very, very sturdy thus far, just because we use things like Blur and of course, again, Zealot and Davern are the real main takes who are rushing in, taking the majority of the heat. So she's never had to trigger Last Stand, but it just made sense to me to go ahead and take it. Improved critical, obviously we want to have make sure that our critical hits are as effective as possible. At Mythic level 5, we go ahead and take Leading Strike, which is going to allow her to set up enemies to take major damage from party members. I already mentioned Mythic Light Armor Assault. This is going to take her equipped armor bonus and add half of it to her attack and damage rolls. Definitely some nice consistent increase in the amount of damage you can do. Mythic Charge, we should be charging on the time with a Scald on our team. We're going to get pounced, so we'll do full attacks when we charge, and this will ensure those charges are even more powerful. And then once again, because she gets weapon specialization from her class, it enables access to the mythic option, which is going to increase that damage even more. And then as far as her items, this is from the very beginning of Act 5, so it's not necessarily the most powerful stuff she can get. I haven't done the Treasure of Midnight Isles. I haven't done the Ineluctable Prison and some of the other major areas that would probably give her even better stuff. But based on what I have so far, I use the Headbutter's Helm, which whenever she charges an enemy, they've got to pass a check or they're going to suffer a -2 penalty to AC and attack rolls. Not that big of a deal, but I felt like it works for her. Broken Trickster gives her a +6 enhancement bonus to both Wisdom and Charisma. And whenever she takes damage of any energy type, she's going to gain resistance against it. And when she takes physical damage, she's going to gain resistance. So I felt like this kind of fits with her, and it's nice. It makes her alignment undetectable, similar to Camellia. So I thought this works. Perilous Shade automatically activates invisibility greater whenever she lands a killing blow. Because we have Camellia as an Inciter Scald, she automatically gives sneak attacks to all of the melee party members. So with invisibility greater, it's going to allow that to trigger much more often. Great stuff. Ring of Protection +5, and then she also has Nahindrian Courage. Whenever she's being attacked with a ranged weapon, she's going to gain +2 morale bonus to AC and 1 extra attack of opportunity, and her speed is increased. Not bad. Heavy Hand gives her a +3 bonus on damage rolls with her offhand weapon when dual wielding. That works for her. Then we've got Mantis Favor, which is a +3 keen Sawtooth Saber, and when it confirms a critical hit, it restores hit points to her. Honestly, I haven't been all that impressed with the Sawtooth Sabers I've come in contact with, so I'm hoping there's some really nice +5 versions that'll be in Act 5. This is a Corrosive Sawtooth Saber +2. So I've been using Sela and putting on Magic Weapon Greater to get these weapons up to +5 while I hopefully wait and try to find weapons that are more impactful. And then for her necklace, she's got a +4 bonus to initiative. She already gets a crazy amount of initiative, but the quicker that she can act in combat, quicker she can kill someone and then activate the fascination, the deadly fascination crowd control to really shut down enemies. And then we've already talked about Chainmail of Camaraderie. Apprentice Robe just gives her a +1 bonus to AC because she's under the effect of a Mage Armor spell. This does nothing for her. I never put Mage Armor on her. It's simply for the look. Assailant's Belt, Dexterity +6 when she confirms a critical hit. For the next 3 rounds, she's going to get a +2 Circumstance bonus to attack and damage rolls. Obviously, she should be critting all the time with that wide variety of attacks that she has, so this is great stuff. Haven't found good gloves for her yet, and I still don't have the dexterity boots that would give her around, I think, a +9 bonus to dexterity. So when I unlock those, that's probably what I'll go ahead and place here. All right, then when it comes to spells, Wenduag serves as a secondary buffer on my team. So Camellia handles the majority of that task, but of course, there's some cleric buffs she's not going to have access to. Wenduag handles a lot of that, and then Darren picks up some of the slack as well. So at level 1, main thing I wanted for her was Shield of Faith at this point. I cast it on all of my party members that are going to be exposed to melee attacks. So it fills up most of her slots. Early game, remove fear is also really important. And if I didn't have Darren on the team, I'd also probably give her a couple of slots of Unbreakable Heart. But when that's needed, Darren is usually the one who goes ahead and handles it. Then at level 2, again, the buffs I would usually use for her, it's later in the game, so I'm not using it, but Bull Strength I will put on people, Eagle Splendor, because early you only have access to those +2 headbands. It's a while before you get +4. So I might use some of these buffs on folks, and then by end game, I'm only using Aid. That's really the only buff that I still find to be all that useful. Protection from Alignment Communal can be very useful early game as well. Then at level 3, there's a few more buffs that are actually nice to have. Delay Poison Communal, of course, you want to have that on constantly. Archon's Aura, I would have it on, but Darren's using it. He has much higher charisma and his DC is going to be higher, so it makes more sense to just leave it with him. We could use Prayer, but I'm pretty sure Sela has that, and so if I want to use Prayer, I go ahead and trigger it with her. So the things I have on with Wenduag, Magical Vestment in case, especially like for her, she's using an armor that's only +3, so having Magical Vestments and then bringing that enhancement bonus up is going to be useful to me. And then also having Resist Energy Communal for those rare times when I know the exact type of energy that's going to be used, I can go ahead and put up some protection for it. Then at level 4, protection from energy communal as well. And then I put on as many stacks of Crusader's Edge as I can. All of your melee party members should have this. It's just absolutely fantastic. Whenever you score a critical hit against an outsider with an evil subtype, you're not only going to deal normal crit damage, but also nauseate the outsider for 1d3 rounds. And the outsider can reduce this nauseating condition to sicken with a successful fortitude save, but very powerful way to not only deal great damage, but also put some crowd control in it as well. You want to have this. Then at level 5, honestly, there's nothing here that I feel like it's all that great for Wenduag. I use spell resistance with Darren because he's going to have the higher caster level. So I just put Disrupting Weapon, but even this isn't all that great because Camellia is giving Disrupting Weapon to all party members with her rage anyway. So really there's nothing at level 5 that's all that great for Wenduag. Then finally at level 6, I go ahead and take all these mass buffs and throw it on there and put it on the team. Like there are some party members who may not have a +4 bonus to strength or a +4 bonus to dexterity, and it'll come in handy sometimes. Also go ahead and throw True Seeing on her, since the effectiveness of True Seeing is not really based around the efficacy as a spellcaster of the character who uses it. So it doesn't have to be Darren who's doing it. So all of this together makes her an effective secondary buffer for the team, which is definitely useful. All right, so now we're in a combat example. And we will go ahead and, oh, we don't even need to charge. We can just do a regular attack. So actually, here, we'll start with you. All right, so she did a full attack and hit a critical hit, did 190 damage to him, which caused her to use Deadly Fascination. And then multiple people saving throws failed. You see that it's got a DC of 33. Very nice. And it actually would have been even higher if we had put on Red Shroud, which I hadn't even done, and we could have done more damage. So let me turn on Red Shroud and also turn on Sacred Weapon Primary Hand. And for the second one, whose saving throw also failed, we dealt 68 damage to him, and then 76 damage to him as well, and then another 65 damage. So very, very nice all the way around. All right. So now we're back again. The enemies basically did nothing to my team. Either they were all fascinated or they were busy fighting each other. So my team had no negative impacts from that last go round. Now let's try again. All right. And she dealt, looks like what? 53, 95, 84, 49, 79, just very, very consistent damage. And she used her invisibility greater ability, and the Demidan Destroyer is dead. And others are already set up to die as well. And you know what, just for kicks, we'll go ahead and use her Aspect of Mantis, which is going to give her another bite attack and cause her to be able to do some other things. I haven't even used this yet, so this should be interesting. Back to her again. Again, nothing happened to my team. And you see there's a long line of enemies who are completely shut down and unable to do anything. So just really, really great stuff. Let's go ahead and attack these people once again. So looks like 86 damage. Reflex saving throw failed, but it didn't matter. Hit with a sneak attack, dealt 102 damage. Hit another sneak attack, dealt 51 damage. Hit another sneak attack, dealt 90 damage. Somebody died, and then we dealt 73 damage to another one. So I think it's pretty obvious Wenduag is amazing in this role. She's basically number 3 on the list as far as damage. So all the damage she does is cake, but I really want her targeting the softest target possible and then triggering Deadly Fascination, which is going to shut down entire groups of enemies. And then that makes it easy for Davern, who's really my main damage dealer, to jump in and just absolutely mop up groups. So hopefully you all enjoyed this build. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Looking forward to hearing it. And I will see you all in the next video. Take care.